the chairman of the People's National Movement, the Member of Parliament for Digger-Martin North East, the Minister of Finance, the Honorable School-Colm Imbert.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, political leader of the People's National Movement and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, my cabinet colleague Fitzgerald Hines, my other cabinet colleagues, Nyan Gadsby-Dolly, Camille Robinson-Regis, other members of the cabinet, the chairman of the Sawa-Lavantil Regional Corporation, other members of the executive of the People's National Movement, supporters, friends, well-wishers, I bring you good tidings tonight. And I think it's about time, because there's a lot of old talk outside there. Our opponents are indeed desperate, ladies and gentlemen. They are indeed desperate. There are two things that they think they're going to trip up the PNM. One is crime and security, and the other is the economy. And they're deadly scared that if we deal with those two problems in an effective and positive way, they're gone through. Well, I come here tonight to tell you they're gone through. Let me read something from a document I was looking at just tonight. You know, there's a lot of stupid talk out there. So just tonight, I went on the web and I looked at a particular publication that is issued by the United Nations every year. And it's called the World Economic Situation and Prospects. So every single year, there's a division, social and economic division in the United Nations that looks at economies all over the world. They look at regions all over the world. And they establish what is happening in these economies. And the latest publication from that department of the United Nations, which is called World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019, let me just read something for you. This was published just a couple months ago. And I went to the section on the Caribbean and Latin America. And I read, and I quote from the World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019. In the Caribbean, a moderate economic recovery materialized in 2018 as Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago returned to positive growth, benefiting from higher oil prices. Economic growth in Suriname is also supported by increased gold production, whereas Trinidad and Tobago has managed, and listen to these words very carefully, Trinidad and Tobago has managed to expand natural gas production. No, it's not Imbert say so. It's not the PNM say so. It is the United Nations in their World Economic Situation and Prospects publication of January 2019. And that last part, because they looked at these two economies in the Caribbean, and we stand out, Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago. And they saw that Suriname has recovered in part because of high oil prices and in part because of increased gold production. And they looked at Trinidad and Tobago, and they say we have recovered in part because of higher oil prices, but also because we have somehow managed to increase gas production. And that is no mean feat, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to give credit to the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, for this. You will remember when we came in, Dr. Rowley went off to Houston, he went to London, and the opposition, you know, criticized him, traveling all over the place, but he was doing something very, very important. He was meeting with BP, he was meeting with Shell, with EOG, and all of those large oil companies that work in Trinidad and Tobago and setting the stage for the situation as it occurs now. I can tell you, over the last 12 months, natural gas production has increased in Trinidad and Tobago by almost 10%, and that is no small number, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about an increase of 600 million standard cubic feet a day. 600 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. That's the increase in production over the last 12 months, and it's all because of the hard work of the People's National Movement. And we're a team. You also had Minister Young, Minister Franklin Can, and a group of technocrats working with all of the oil and gas companies over the last 12 months, and it has set the stage for growth and for positivity in Trinidad and Tobago over the next several years. And that is why you can have these respected publications making these statements. So don't take on the nonsense that the other side is saying. They're scared. Our metrics are good. We have a good debt to GDP ratio at 62%. Very good. I just came back from meetings in Washington with the rating agencies, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and the IMF and the World Bank, and a number of other agencies. I had to go. It's important. I don't travel often, but it was important that I go there and talk to the rating agencies about Trinidad and Tobago and the good work we are doing here. And let me tell you what I discovered. And this is something the country needs to know. That when we came in and we were faced with a tremendous drop in revenue, and we got a number of downgrades from the rating agencies, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and we all thought this had to do with the collapse of oil prices and a loss of almost $3 billion US dollars, almost 20 billion TT dollars in revenue to Trinidad and Tobago. But we discovered in a very in-depth meeting in Washington just a few days ago that the real problem was Petrotrin. That when you look at Trinidad and Tobago under this PNM administration, the metrics look good. As I told you, our debt to GDP ratio is 62%. Barbados, I met the Barbados delegation in Washington just before the last election, just about a year ago. Barbados' debt to GDP ratio was 171%. Ours is 62. It means that they were in big trouble. In fact, what I was told by a government official, high government official of Barbados, is that if it did not, the new government coming in, if they did not take immediate steps to deal with the financial crisis that they faced, they would have run out of money in a couple of weeks. And they face the similar challenge that we face. But the good thing with us is that we are not in an IMF program, and we are not going to be in an IMF program. Not under this PNM administration. No way. But let me tell you about Petrotrin. So what we discovered in talking to some very knowledgeable experts is that when Standard & Poor's and Moody's, these are international credit rating agencies which rate your country's economic strength. When they ranked Trinidad and Tobago as a standalone country, the country on its own, we were well into the investment grade, in the middle of the investment grade, well up inside. But when they added Petrotrin, in the case of Moody's in particular, it pulled us 4 notches down out of the investment grade into the speculative grade. Because you see, the country on its own, because of the hard work we have done this last 3 years, has a very good investment grade rating. And therefore, it was your courageous PNM government that realized it had to take the bull by the horns and deal with the Petrotrin problem. Petrotrin was losing upwards of $2.5 billion a year. Petrotrin has a huge loan maturing in August of this year, $850 million US dollars. You know how much money that is? That is over 5 billion TT maturing this year, 2019 August. So when the rating agencies were looking at Trinidad, they say, well, the country good, but Petrotrin is trouble. And Petrotrin is like an albatross around the neck of the country's rating, and they pulled us down. So we, as a government, we took the bold and courageous move of dealing with the Petrotrin problem once and for all. And let me tell you something. In our discussions in Washington this week, the rating agencies were surprised at what we have been able to achieve. They said, we never believed you would do it. Let me tell you what has happened to Petrotrin. Not today, today's Tuesday. Yesterday, Petrotrin launched its refinancing of that $850 million US bond. And one of the groups we met with was the bankers who are arranging that for them. And the bankers are reasonably confident that within a month, that problem of that $850 million US, that $5 billion problem will be solved by the board that we put in the Petrotrin, this PNM government, under the direction and leadership of the Prime Minister and your cabinet. The Petrotrin loan debt problem will be solved during this year, 2019. And the companies that have replaced Petrotrin, Heritage Petroleum and Barataria Fuel Trading, we have moved from an amazing situation of losing over $2 billion a year to those two companies already, in a few months, are already generating a profit, believe it or not. Both Heritage Petroleum, which produces oil, and Barataria Fuel Trading, which imports and sells fuel, are making a profit. So we've gone from a situation where there was a $2 billion drain on the economy to now we have profitable companies, wholly owned state enterprises in our energy sector. And believe it or not, for the first time in 3 years, I am told by Petrotrin, by Trinidad Petroleum, which is now the holding company, and I have no reason to doubt them, that within a couple of weeks, for the first time in 3 years, we will receive a royalty payment from those Petrotrin companies. For the first time in 3 years. And with that albatross off the neck of the country, our outlook in terms of our credit rating can only be positive, ladies and gentlemen. It can only be positive. So we will wait and see. We have a lot of work to do. We will have to convince the rating agencies that what we have done is permanent, but we shall wait and see. The outlook for Trinidad and Tobago can only be positive, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you what that means. You heard me speak about an economic turnaround in the last budget. And things have been difficult in recent months. That is now, there's now time for that to come to an end. We understand the problems that people have. We understand problems like tax refunds, that there are people waiting a year, 2 years for their tax refunds. And I'm telling you here tonight, your PNM government is going to do what is necessary to expedite the payment of all tax refunds to small taxpayers within the next couple of months. We will raise the money, and all small taxpayers that are due refunds will get them within the next couple of months. Another problem that businesses face, small businesses, in addition to big businesses, is outstanding VAT refunds. And let me explain the problem that we faced. When we came in, we met VAT refunds not paid. You hear what I'm saying? VAT refunds not paid by the former government of $4.5 billion. $4.5 billion in outstanding VAT refunds. And VAT refunds develop every month to the tune of about $350 million a month. So you're talking over $4 billion a year in VAT refunds just generating the system. And we carrying that load of $4.5 billion in VAT refunds since September 2015. And then $4 billion every year keeps adding. But it's not fair to business owners. It's not fair. Because a lot of businesses depend on these VAT refunds to keep their business going, especially small businesses. So we're going to deal with that too. That is one of the things your government is going to do within the next couple months. We are going to resolve the issue of VAT refunds. We can't pay off the whole 4.5 billion in arrears. But we're going to start to put more money into the system and allow small businesses in particular to get their VAT refunds. So tax refunds for small taxpayers, VAT refunds for small, medium, and large businesses. But let me tell you what else we're going to do. Because we've spent the last 3 years doing a lot of preparatory work. And now it's time to get things done. So we have a hospital under construction in Point Fortin that should finish fairly soon, Minister of Health and member for Point Fortin. We have a hospital under construction at Rima that should also finish fairly soon. And as the Prime Minister announced, we are going to build a brand new hospital in Sangre Grande. It's going to cost us about $3 billion, but you're worth it. The people of Trinidad and Tobago, you are worth it. So we will raise the money to complete those 2 hospitals. Well, we've already raised the money for that. And we will raise the money for the Sangre Grande Hospital. And that will be done within the next couple of months, so that hospital could get cracking in 2019. We also are aware, ladies and gentlemen, of potholes all over the place. We know about potholes. We know about bad roads. Again, we have been fighting for the last 3 years. But we have turned it around. So now it's time to get things done. So you will see a significant road paving program starting up in 2019 and going forward into 2020. And then let's all talk about Tobago. Again, your Prime Minister went to Australia and made arrangements with the Australian government. And out of that visit came the procurement of 2 new fast ferries from the best ferry manufacturers in the world, from Incat and from Ostal. Boats not cheap, boats not cheap. We could have made a decision to refurbish what we have. We could have buy a whole boat. No. The fast ferries that we acquired under the PNM in 2006 have served us very well. And it is time now to retire those vessels. And it is time to give the people of Trinidad and Tobago, more so the people of Tobago, 2 brand new state-of-the-art modern fast ferries. And I can tell you, we're well on the way. We're well on the way. The boats are under construction. The commercial contracts are being executed. And my ministry is in the process of raising the financing. The down payments have been paid and so on. So 2 new fast ferries coming to deal with that inter-island route problem in 2020. And also 2 new military vessels to help us to deal with patrolling our maritime borders. We're also going to do whatever it takes to do what we can to complete the Point Fortin Highway. It's going to cost us $1 billion, but that will be $1 billion well worth spent. So you can expect that from your PNM government as well. And you have seen the Prime Minister turn the sod for the road to Sangre Grande, the road to Toko. All of that is in the works, ladies and gentlemen. And my job as Minister of Finance is not to do. My job is to raise the money. And I know it has been hard. And I know it has been difficult for everyone, for all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, for my cabinet colleagues who have had to be patient. I know. But now it's time to get things done. And you're going to see action coming from the Ministry of Finance in the next 12 months. We also have a housing bond. You will see a housing bond coming out in the newspapers within the next month. We're going to raise $1 billion to build thousands of houses for you, the ordinary people of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is $1 billion this year and $1 billion next year. We are making no joke. So I needed to tell you this because if you listen to the other side, Trinidad going through, as I said, the economic indicators are good. We have a low debt to GDP ratio. We have over $7 billion in foreign reserves. We have $6 billion in our Heritage and Stabilization Fund. We have increased natural gas production. We have increased inflows of foreign exchange, which is reducing the decline in our reserves. Things are looking up for Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm not leaving out San Fernando. We have a waterfront project in San Fernando which is being executed by the Minister of Planning, the Ministry of Planning, and we will provide the money for that. We're building the Curep interchange, the government, not me. I am arranging the money for that. And we have other interchanges to go higher up the east-west corridor. All of this you will see unfold in the next 12 months, ladies and gentlemen. So I just thought I would come and tell you tonight, I bring good tidings, tidings of joy and tidings of good cheer. And when you see these things happen, then you will know, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail.